In this video, I'm going to prove to you with neuroscience why the more you try to fix your anxiously attachment style, the worse it becomes. And yes, I am dancing, but you cannot hear the music because if I were to put the music that is inside of my ears, I would get demonetized. So we're just gonna roll with it. Anyways, so let's start with a story. The story goes that about 4 years ago, I heard about the attachment style theory. And I thought, well, great, let me figure out what is my attachment. So I took the quiz and oh horrors, I've learned that my attachment is anxiously attached. Well, what did I do? The thing that most people do, maybe probably you're doing it right now. I started learning how to fix it. I read the books. I watched tons of YouTube videos, so many reels. I cannot even tell you how many. And guess what? The more I learn and studied and tried to fix it, the worse my relationship and friendships became. I got almost obsessed. I thought I was going crazy. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to do something absolutely bloody crazy. What was it? I stopped fixing it. I stopped learning about it. I stopped reading about it. I stopped trying to get into detachment theory type of stuff. Nothing. I did absolutely nothing. And guess what? Never been better. My relationships are secure. I am secure with myself. My friendships are thriving. And then I started looking into, well, why that is the case. Why is that once I stopped learning or fixing rather, then everything changed. And well, there is definitely a sign. So we're going to take a look at it. There is in neuroscience such principle that is called the Hebbian learning. I'm not going to go too much into science and details, but ultimately the idea is that the neurons that fire together wire together, which basically means that the more you think about it, the more you read about it, the more you say it out loud, that is, I am anxiously attached, the more you become it. Basically, this is how the identity is being created. And it's really hard to fix the identity. Now, I'm sure there is a much more depth into why the more we say that, but this is a very simple explanation. And there's also a very much anecdotal evidence. For example, in Russian language, there is this saying that kind of goes like, the more you tell a person that he is a pig, the faster he's going to become and act like one. And we know that identities are really hard to change and to, I guess, to fix, although this is not the best word for it. But if you were to look at, take the politics, some people identify as Democrats and some people identify as Republicans. I am XYZ. And then when you try to talk to either of the party, it's really hard to convince people some, maybe data or maybe some reality. Not a political video, but I hope you get the idea. Basically, every time you think, you watch, you read, you talk to your friends about it, you see the reels and TikTok, the more you basically carve out the pathways in your brain and the more you become that. So am I saying that the anxious attachment theory is BS? No, absolutely not. I do think that the scientists who did uncover or discovered this attachment style theory, what they did notice is the behavior patterns in babies. But they didn't really say anything about the identity, that these babies were effed up. Nothing. They didn't really say anything. And so I do believe that it's more the internet that made it the thing that, well, if you have X, then you are that. And so because of that, I think that the next thing that I'm about to say will help you to identify and see why I'm saying and have this idea even better. And so now if you read, I think his name is Alan Beck, or am I mixing that with my friend? But the last name is Beck, the 4 agreements. One of the, I think it's the second agreement. The second agreement was that what? Do not take anything personally. Now, when you take anxiously attached or any type of attachment style, what does happen? Well, really, the idea is that we are basically revolving the universe around ourselves. We start thinking, well, what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? Well, what did that person thought about me? It's all about me, which makes it that we take things personally, right? And so knowing this, understanding this, and knowing the fact that, well, other person's actions have usually nothing to do with us, with our actions. Now, I want to be very careful there because, well, if you do something to hurt a person, your actions also, you have to be responsible for that. But I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is what you do something, for example, you say something and the person didn't reply to you. It's not because you said something, it's because something happened in that person life. And so knowing that, we can see that the cure for anxious attachment is very simple. Okay? It's not complicated, it's not crazy. It's just daily habits that help you rewire the brain. And so how do we fix that? Well, it's very, very simple, as I already said. Think about the fact that your anxious thoughts is like a train. And how do we stop the train outside of, like pushing the brakes, which is really hard to do? We actually put a wall in front of that train, okay? And that wall is the reality. It's the truth, right? So you have to basically, every time you have that anxious thought, you have to ask yourself, is this true? Okay? Literally, just stop. You have to stop the train of thought and ask, is this true? This is the wall basic. Now, sometimes if the person does not respond to you, well, it's because they don't like you. But that's a good thing that you know that, because you can now move. And also it helps you sometimes to come in with the reality, because a lot of the times, especially women, become anxiously attached because they create this idea of this relationship. They kind of live in this very Delulu land, which is nothing bad, but in this particular case, it is kind of bad. They completely ignore all of the red flags and decide, well, this guy like me. But when you are stopping the train of thought, stopping that Delulu land with that wall, the reality, the truth, it becomes like very sobering. All of a sudden you go, well, actually, that is not true. Well, could be that he's busy, could be that he doesn't like me. If that's the case, great. Why? Because why would you want to step into a pile of shit that smells and still stand there and go, well, I kind of like it. I kind of like this pile of shit. It smells, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but I still kind of like it. I think that's insane, isn't it? So that's the way that I would recommend, and that's what I basically did. I just literally stopped the train of thought with reality. So if I were to give you 3 action steps, first, try to remove everything related to the anxious attachment style. Detachment theory, all of the YouTube videos, all of the books, all of the TikToks, all of the Reels. You need to completely quit cold turkey. You need to stop feeding that idea that basically strengthens your identity of anxious attachment style. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to stop the train of thought with the reality, with the truth bomb, basically. Okay. So again, every time you have this anxious attachment style thought or anxious thought, you have to literally say, okay, is this true? Let me find the evidence that what I'm thinking is actually not reality. It's very simple. And number 3, I would say just do that for 30 days, every single day, and you will see how much easier your life becomes. I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.